Not alone, not on, not alone till everyone is gone, gone, gone. Let them be gone, let them rot to dust and be alone. All alone for the year, stick with the tears in the dark.
Hello, everyone. I'm your host, MX2, and this morning I'm feeling a little better, and that is a reason enough to get in and model hard. So, let us select our piece of the day and go in and take a look at it and really just analyze what we're about to be doing. And every part looks like it's going to be an easy time, and who knows, maybe it is. I like to just think for a moment of what kind of strategy I want to employ, kind of maybe what result I want at the end. It'd be cool to have like a more griddish type topo. I think these curves are really owning me when it comes to the solution. So let's get in and get owned by another solution. And I'm just double checking that my folder is saved that my file is saved in the right place, because we don't want to overwrite the actual source file ever. That would be bad. And working on this actually shows me a lot of kind of STLR's process and the way that he uses the tools and all sorts of things. Also, it shows us that we can't work as if this is a symmetrized model, because this is not a symmetrized model. That's probably the most important thing to take away, is that if we slap a mirror on it, we are lying to ourselves. So we got to really think about how we want to do this. So we're gonna have to get rid of the weighted normal for one moment while I cough. Okay, let me hook up my lapel mic as well, so that way you guys have Dolby Digital full audio. I forgot about the level of audio solution that was being employed over here when it came to these videos. So let's just get started. Enough dallying. First thing we'll do is clear the sharps, so that way there's just no marking. I love that function, even though I'm wanting it to be a lot more violent. And by violent, I mean I need it to delete the entire data tree. I don't need it to just clear the data. I need it to eliminate its existence. So just jumping in here and grabbing some things. I think yesterday I had a strange bug with one of my configurations that was like blocking me to press Control X. And we shouldn't be blocking Blender hotkeys, especially if we have nothing to offer in instead. So since we're just starting over in the morning, we'll just call that one P2, just because it sounds cooler. And we'll make another configuration as well. And for this one, we will just call it Selecto. I didn't rehearse anything still. I'm just being experimental early in the morning, because why not just have a little fun? And that's the command that we need. Let's see, Control Shift Enter, and that's not going to work because we were full screen in a different way. And we want to get that smart loop, and we'll just map that to simply edge, and we want that to be additive behavior, so that whenever we go in and select a loop, we are ready to go. And then if we need to perform an offset, let's make that a control operation. So let's jump back over to Insolve so we can yoink it again. And I just love yoinking. Just know that whenever the cameras are off, I'm yoinking things I'm not supposed to. But whenever I am on camera, there's probably a funny metaphor that could be said there, but we'll bypass that. So we'll go ahead and edge, control, and we'll have this be additive behavior. And what this means is that now I can go select an edge and then just begin bringing it out like so. And if I want to click and begin the operation, we can make it an after action. So now I'm clicking and releasing, and then I'm doing it. So there's a accessibility question as to how we can approach this as well. So now it's coming back to me, and we have 1, 2, 3 to change. But if we don't want 1, 2, 3 to change, we can make it back to changing our config. So we got 3, where we can jump over to Selecto, and perform the operations we need. But let us do things in the right order. For example, we probably care about that part more. and then we care about that part more. And whenever select is just working, it's just great. But just know that I'd be looking at select with a side eye because I know that it needs so much. Okay, I keep pausing to cough, but you know, maybe I'm telling you, it's so weird to get sick in the summer. I'm telling you, if you get sick now, you're just automatically suspicious it's the big one, and that sucks because, you know, the flu used to get its own credit, right? Flu used to kill old people on its own, and now, you know, all of its credit goes to another illness. So I mean, if I was the inventor of the flu, I would be very mad. Just saying, if I'd be in the lab making a superior flu, I'd make a flu 2.0, you know, flu back with a vengeance, you know. I'd really teach them boys, like I'd give them symptoms that are unique to flu just so they know, like, hey, flu did this. Who killed you? It was the flu. You know, right now, the flu's having a little bit of an identity crisis. You know, I'm just over here talking smack about the flu. I'm sorry. I'm probably going to get hit even harder for these things, but you know, what are you going to do? I'm the type of person who will smack talk an illness, you know. If I got cancer, hey, smack talking it. I'll disrespect my cancer as it disrespects me. I'm still just making jokes here. Let us go ahead and make that correction. And from here, we will just perform a correction, and we see that analyze, you know, really does need that Z fighting, but believe me, for the first things first is I need analyze to just work. I need it to work, be stable, not impact Blender, not get stuck on screen, not have anything weird happening with it, and as a result, and you know, also could create the wham bam, because I mean, what am I doing here? What am I doing? You know, you ever are modeling and you're like, what am I doing? Of course, I'm just joking, of course, just being meta. But also, what are we doing? I'm also thinking on a conversation. I had a friend yesterday or the other day tell me, he's like, if I was in a studio and someone was working in all quads, I would fire them. And I had nothing else to say to that comment. I was like, wow. You know, obviously, times are changing, and also the person may not have the industry experience to say such things, but you know, just casual conversation, but you know, just things people say. I don't think there will ever be a time in which proper modeling will be replaced with you know, dark modeling, but the idea is exciting, right? To think that you're able to just completely hack it through in this industry without learning fundamentals. It's like, you know, not learning to read or write. These are essential skills. And also, this process we're going through is a form of accountability. We're just basically being accountable for the mesh that we made. One of my rules is I try not to cut anything I can't convert, which I know is weird, but I do plan to do content kind of explaining that point and showing it even better, because it's a good rule. You know, someone's going to get handed off this mesh, and do you want to be a jerk to them? Do you want to make yourself infamous? I'm telling you guys, I have a t-shirt made of me talking about being a polygon smuggler, because a long time ago I tried experimental techniques in a commercial job, and I'm not even joking, they made a t-shirt out of me calling me a poly smuggler. And people who meet me, who've known me for possibly 10 plus years, they're like, oh yeah, hey, you still smuggling polys? I'm like, hey, stop saying that. Just let that die. But no, I'm still called a poly smuggler. And I'm like, what are you talking about? I am trying to be the most polygonally accountable person you know. As in, I know what every polygon is doing because I managed every polygon on this shape. There is no smuggling. Also, smuggling for who? I can't even make jokes about smuggling. I'll get myself canceled. But also, as I do this, I imagine this new feature involving something called drop off, and right now I just can't express it fully out loud, but just know that, when I'm doing an operation that doesn't make sense over and over, I'm not doing it because of me having a necessity for the operation. It's really me just understanding the futility and dancing around the action to understand it better, because only by doing things 1,000 times can we find the proper solution. I mean, we could of course find it a lot sooner, but it's always been my process. It's what made Hard Ops what it is. And also Box Cutter, hundreds of thousands of box cuts. And I look forward to also doing the same thing, but in terms of topology. So as the product continues to be tested by me, my initial concerns about the product not, making it through to the masses as intended fade away, because all I need is the tool to be usable by me on an excellent level, and it's game over. The models that I'm working up towards, they will be a sight to see, or at least I'm hoping. You know me, guys. I'm ambitious with my ambitions, and this tool has some of the most ambitious ambitions I've had the ambition for yet. Also, yesterday, I was notified that the next thing is ready. Like, it's ready, but I can't be shown it because I'm a harsh reviewer, and I'm critical, and I'm a critical bastard, and they're afraid to show me. But basically, the next thing, you'll love it. You'll love it. I don't even have to know. I just know that, now that everyone's on the same page with the scope and endeavors of this tool, everyone is doing their part now for it. So I'm excited for what that means as it all culminates together. Also, what other news can I be saying? Also, between all of this, I'm still working on musicals, just so y'all know. I'm working on this new musical that I want to have be part of videos. If any of you guys ever wonder where my head's at, if y'all seen the show Cashern, it's super old, but Cashern was like this bio-mutant who, he just looked so beautiful. But when they did Cashern Sins, they had these like kind of previews at the beginning of the episode, and I used to love that. I mean, at the time, I'd be like, what the heck happened to Luna, bro? But now, I'm just like, wow. They really told such an interesting story prior to the episode, and then at the end, it all culminated into a very beautiful finale. I mean, I might leave this and go watch Cashern just to go get reacclimated with the universe. But I'm always thinking of anime. Got anime problems. That's why it struck me whenever my woman was saying, hey, some of these songs you're making are a little too anime. It's like, oh, wait, you're right. That isn't part of universal appeal. We gotta dial it back a little bit. I don't want these people to think I'm a weeb. I mean, I don't want to tell these people I'm a former weeb. Look, Naruto hurt me, okay? So you can't call me a weeb because I'm not watching Naruto anymore. Naruto was like the crack cocaine of anime, and I'm pleased to announce that, I've been Naruto free for many years now, alright? My way of the ninja, just kidding, but I was so into Naruto at the time. It was just a great anime, and, I still love it, but, I mean, they did kind of turn all the original fans into boomers by making the kids insufferable. So now it's like, I hate these kids, and so you realize you become a bitter old Naruto man, So we've reduced that side, and we also want to reduce this side. And I'm just looking at Analyze, thinking, what version of Analyze will we need next? Because Analyze is supposed to do a myriad of things at once, and right now it only does one. I mean, it does that thing pretty alright, but could do it more alright, you know what I'm saying? But Also, this part, painful. Not in a bad critique way, in a, when I was purchasing this asset, I specifically asked for pain. Like I specifically asked for pain. And the goal is to have other assets in the tool from other high-level artists to basically get people familiar with the process of dealing with high-quality meshes, because the support role of assisting people with doing mesh corrections is just as noble as being, the person making the model. I know it's probably a ideological goal of everyone to be the designer and to make the important assets and to make the game, but sometimes having that look knocked down, laid down with a senior artist is best, especially because they can plot that design DNA a lot better and have it be consistent. So, assuming that you can just be that rock star is a lofty ambition. Can't knock it, but realistically, you'll probably start at the bottom until they figure you out. Maybe have you do an art test. Just kidding. And so we want to just bring this over here. I mean, I could just see the quads as I'm working, bam, bam, bam. And if you're thinking, oh man, he should just hit the easy button. Well, in that case, this is why I've returned. Because I feel that people are being a little bit misled. And as I get more reacclimated to the industry meta, I'm finding out that some things never have changed. Some things have never changed. And being concerned about topology is one of them. Now, if you're a high dollar concept modeler, that's another story. But I personally would not even want to buy a mesh that's unable to be opened in another application. I mean, also, if you're paying for a project, you probably want to witness a little suffering. So you probably wish you could just get paid and that would just be the end of the job. But really, it's not. And we'll just grab this and dissolve it, because why not? And we'll jump right back in. And I don't even know why I exit. That's the muscle memory, which is why I get so mad when things don't work, because if I train my muscle memory to go to deal with bugs, then I'll never acquiesce and turn around on it. I'll end up forever obsessed with avoiding that troublesome state that's locked into my memory. So this is part of why we are so adamant about getting the tools working right immediately. In fact, the foundation of this tool being based on Select Tool was supposed to be because Select Tool has had years of experience proving its validity. But what I didn't count on was that the entire idea would be rewritten, and that of course holds many, many benefits. I mean, the hardest lesson I've been taught lately is, I keep saying, why didn't we just use the source thing? Why didn't we just use the source? And the answer I kept getting was, that is not as easy as you're saying. You're saying it like it's easy, but what you're asking for is not easy. And so after having multiple parties explain it to me, I get it now. But the point I'm making is that I originally wanted Insolve to be exactly like Select Tool, but instead we got something that is a little more unique, and that's not even a bad thing. I thought it was at first. I was quite upset about some of the departures. As strange as that sounds, I was quite upset about some of the departures, because I'll have to go over Select Tool and show why it could go no further, because it was a Select Tool that went too far. It was a Select Tool that I was just asking for more and more, and that more and more became things that challenged its ability to even remain a stable concept. So sometimes it's just easier to start over from scratch. But also, because certain things are made by other parties, it does keep others from even wanting to be involved in the tweaking or maintenance or any of those sort of things. And that's what a lot of things, like, I never got it, but I do get it now, that asking a coder to clean up another coder's code is like asking a cat to clean up another cat's litter box. So I always thought of it just like a basketball sort of thing. Like, you know, you just hand a basketball player a basketball and you say, hey, go dribble on that side of the court. Or I don't know how basketball works, but I'm not watching that. I'm modeling. And these corners are just, you know, every roundabout, I'm just thinking, wow, we're going to create a hell of a system for making this no longer a thing. Not right now, but I'm telling you guys, as the price point increases for the product, so will the ambitions that are endeavored. It will meet the ambitions of the product. And this might have been one of the mistakes that was made whenever it came to hops cutter. You know, not saying that it will be discontinued by any means, but that we've always tried to keep the price the same. And as a result, it's put some limitations on the product that have limited its ability to grow, be funded, all sorts of things. I mean, it is pandemonium. I always joke that, you know, if add-ons don't work, the HBO documentary about just the process of what it takes to make things happen would definitely be where it's at, because, you know, it'd just be the HBO show add-ons. They would just talk about the daily battles, because I find that the process of making these is way more interesting than the tools themselves. You know, so much happens behind the scenes, so much. You know, just day to day, just happenings. You know, Blender 3D is a very eventful thing. You know, I follow so many communities. You know, I might have mentioned in a previous community that I'm obsessed with power scalers. You know, these are just the people who determine that Gohan could have beaten Cell easily if he was never forced into academia by himself, and that Videl was a net negative for him, even though she is also strong and was capable of beating, I forgot the guy that she fought in the Budokai Tenkaichi tournament before Boo showed up, but, you know, Videl had a good showing. But it's a very interesting community, and, you know, you're hearing that and you're like, what? I don't care about Dragon Ball Power Scale. What the hell is this guy talking about? But I'm just explaining that there's so many worlds out there, and they're all equally interesting. And Blender is a world also equally interesting. I mean, just to me, though, maybe not to others, and that's also understandable. I'm just redoing this to set myself up better, because why create a try? We don't have to. And we could be making this much faster. And by much faster, I just mean multi-point convergence, which was an idea even back in the hops day. And that's the best part about topology, is that, you know, these ideas they are static. They've been static. And, you know, if no one's excited by the idea of that being expanded, then I certainly understand. You know, I keep getting messages that times are changing. I mean, I'm not getting the memo that people are sending trashy messages to their clients. I'm not getting that memo, and I'll deny delivery of it, because that is insanity. That will definitely get me some professional hatred. And I'm just looking at this mesh density that's happening over here. It sure is getting dense. And we're just having a little fun here. And just as STLR chose to have a lot of loops here. Let's jump over to preset 3. And what we probably want to do in this case is actually just use general selection, multi-select loops. All right, the other one was using smart select, which we should make it smart enough to do the right selection in the situation. But right now, that's at the level of lofty ambition. All right, let's press C. We'll undo that one. 2, 3, 4, 5. And I probably could have done a mirror job on this and then just put it on the other side afterwards. And let's Alt Z just to see what we got. And we have Alt on Edge to basically dissolve them. So let's jump back over to Solver V1. And let's right click and jump back in this baby. We probably want to get rid of Auto Smooth just because I see something causing a little bit of a viewport hang. So I'm always hypersensitive to such things. Also, I'm told all the time that I'm using Analyze way too much. I am overriding Analyze, like having it on all the time and combining it with other things is dangerous. And to that, I just say, I gotta test that. I gotta test that and fully understand it, because Analyze has to be used as often as it's needed because it's an analyzer. And we are making progress on this side, even though this side was a little bit of a doozy, wasn't it? All right, and continuing on, let us just add this in. We'll perform that one, and maybe every other, like so. Just thinking of combinations in my head as I'm working. So for this edge, we could possibly start doing some reductions. We'll just slide this over, press E. And let's jump right back in. Or we're already in. No, now we're back in. All right. Oh, I must also add that having insolve as the base is mainly to be a disarming tactic of the tool. Like if we came out talking all about inflow from the beginning, then inflow would be the core, and that's more dangerous to the product itself. Having it based off innocent little select tool makes it a lot funnier, because it means that everything we do underneath will be underneath select tool. And to you that sounds like nothing, but to me, beautiful, because people will always look at it and underestimate it. And what can you do when you're underestimated? Well, in my eyes, you can do anything. When you're underestimated, no one's looking at you, no one's expecting anything, and that is precisely what we need with this product. We need people to not see what's coming, because large ideas, we started off trying to do this auto mesher and it just did not work out. But just because it did not work out doesn't mean that that idea is being given up on. It just means that that iteration is given up on because it was too costly, too expensive, it was too hard. It was beginning to get to a situation where we were going to need to break open another man's algorithm, and the algorithm just wasn't built for that. So it was just going to get nuts. And the benefits would have just been so little. But, obviously, hard surface needs a very special hard surface remesher. In fact, I meant to do a video about hacking my way through using quad remesher, because I do have quad remesher and I use a lot of quad remesher. And quad remesher always gives me a result that makes me say, I should not have done that. And every time I try to submit that topology as like, hey, this is my topo, they're like, hey, do you need to see a doctor? I'm like, what? They're like, well, I mean, there's some neurological choices made here that no human would make. I'm like, what are you talking about? They're like, look right here, like these poles, this area didn't even get finished, and it just goes on like that. Like I'm telling you, I've had so many times where I've tried to sneak my way through things or hack my way, and I just get busted. Like maybe everyone is smarter than me and they're able to get away with murder, or they're just serving different clients, but I always get busted. They're like, hey, did our check bounce? I'm like, what? They're like, why are you giving me this? I'm like, oh, my apologies, sir. Give me the right topo before I punch your ticket. You know, yes, my lord. So for this area, we could just start correcting it like we did, or we can just correct it like we are. I'm just looking at thinking, man, am I about to really add all these loops for this? I mean, really the point of this whole modeling thing is even just to be able to talk again, just have conversations. So, you know, if I wanted to jump through this in the video, just be done with you guys, we could just end this lesson today, and I go back to having a little coffee cough. But really, there's more to it than that. You know, we're having an experience here together. And do we want that loop to go all the way across the shape? Here, let's look at it like so. We're just going to rotate the view. And let's just try a bad idea. And we'll just slide this over. Slide that over. And of course, such a decision requires a bunch of micro decisions to be made to accommodate. And I don't even know what I'm looking at here. Let's press W, exit out, and take a look at what we have. We'll slide that one over, and we see that we do have a line of doubles just sitting on top of itself. So we do want to get rid of that, which means that these areas could be combined. I must also add that, you know, our intention isn't to have these eternal micro moments as you see me having in videos where I'm literally using the entire tool for a micro moment. The entire video is a micro moment. It's just my testing process. Probably miss showing people how to use this thing. Truly am. And I'm just thinking about how I want to get rid of that, but really, do I need to get rid of that? Sometimes I can get a little pedantic about triangles, just because, like I always say, this is like a video game. You know, I get off of this and play Tetris just as fast as I could play Convert to Polys. Just because this version of the game, you actually win something. You know, you actually win a little bit of prestige from being the guy who solved this. And I would have felt so bad if I would have added this asset and never solved it, because every time I looked at it, I was like, oh, geez, this asset is a little hardcore. And if we just get rid of the loop we tried to give it, we see that we're in a good place. So now we have one side of it complete. And you're like, geez, you have to do that to the other side? Yeah, let's get in there. Let's get her done. And, you know, if you're thinking, oh man, I'm going to use another app to do this and then export the geo over and correct it. Well, not to start an argument, but that will also require massive correction. So, however you want to do the battle, the choice is yours. But to get this to the point in which someone will possibly want to, you know, have this on their hard drive or use it, a little bit of correction might be necessary. And from here, 1, 2, 3, and we can just connect that try over on the other side. And for this piece, we'll just do something like so. You know, no need to give it so much on a flatty surface. I always have to remind myself that flatties don't matter as much. And so maybe something like that, and we could put a loop in there to meet it. All right, and we are, I don't even know what happened to that mesh right there. Let's pretend that we didn't do that. Let's take a look at what we have. Maybe something like that. And make sure that we are not compromising things. And we just might just slightly. I might have just pressed G or something while coughing. I don't know. Let's press numpad period, 3D cursor, S, Y, 0. Ooh, not on normal though. That's why I never change my global transformation, S, Y, 0. And now we are getting somewhere. And now we are looking at a complete side A. And what we'll do is grab these, put this on the other side. And for this area, we'll do kind of the same thing. Just make a few corrections. That's kind of what I'm looking at and thinking about is, you know, how can I simplify it a little bit more? But we probably do need a second loop happening here. Maybe something like that. And we can also simplify this immensely by just extruding everything across to the other side. And sometimes I also avoid using some of our automatic solutions because I'm still exploring potentials, and only by doing it manually am I able to understand that. Like, for example, while I do love Project Loop, I already foresee its successor, which is a version that has just a little bit more functionality added and freedom when it comes to determining which direction it goes. And that's something I would not have been able to determine without just manually testing things kind of stupidly. So let's look at it from the right view. We'll grab the side that we need. And this mesh is also a little bit heavier than the usual meshes I've been correcting on this, which is good to know. We'll just extrude that out, which has turned all of that into quads. And if we jump back over to nflow, we were able to continue our work. And we see that, you know, the amount that we have to correct has been reduced immensely. And there's so much that I kind of want to reuse as a solution, but we can't because, I mean, we really could. And I would try to get away with it on a job, like for reals. Like I was talking about hacking it, but I would try to legit mirror this and get away with it. And someone who's competent in guns would be like, hey, how many guns have you shot? And I'd be like, not enough. You know, I'm not an OG gangsta thug. They'd be like, I can tell because you have the gun symmetrical, and guns just aren't built that way. Happens more often than I'd like to admit. And in fact, I was watching one tutorial recently, and the person had said, you know, if you're not using reference, I can tell. And I immediately was like, oh, like I felt like it was talking to my soul. And I'm a person who loves reference, so, or I'm trying to love reference more. You know, I've always respected ref, even though ref is a failure criteria thing. So, you know, just having reference indicates that there is a fail criteria added to the model. So if you fail, you can look at the reference and tell, versus if you don't have a reference, there is no failure criteria. And so you're basically giving yourself a situation that's unrealistic, because you kind of wish that, you know, clients refer to your brain, but, you know, usually they have commercial people. I think I joked in previous videos that, you know, I always have people ask me to, they're like, hey, can you do this guy? And I'm like, who? And then they show me Vitaly, and I'm like, no, why'd you show me that? Happens so often. I'm like, what kind of results are you looking for? They're like, Vitaly Bulgarov. Hire Vitaly Bulgarov. Just kidding, but hire Vitaly Bulgarov. What do you mean you're trying to go for his result with a discount version? Get out of here. I can only do my best. And that has always sufficed. I've always offered my best. In fact, that's my commercial advice for you. Never, never turn down a job saying what you can't do. At least try it. At least try it. You know, even if you're a meerkat hanging with a bunch of real cats, just get in there and find out. Maybe you can do it. Maybe you can rise to the occasion. Maybe a few late nights staying up studying and practicing can help you get there. We'll jump over into Insolve so that I can press F. And we'll just punch that over to the other side, even though that's not going to work out. And we're just making sure that remains all quads, and we'll do the same thing for this side. We'll just pull that out, and we'll leave it just in the middle as a series of lines that we can just get rid of. Alright, Alt 4, and we jump back into nflow. And I think we have some doubles somewhere. And we will go into vert mode and just merge by distance. Alt 4, jump right back into nflow. And we have a system for displaying vertices because, you know, even if you're in edge or face mode, you always need to see your verts. And when it comes to alt, we probably also want to dissolve vert. So I'm going to basically exit tour mode. We will clone this one. We'll dissolve verts. And I have caps lock on. So we'll go ahead and set that to basically be And for dissolve verts, we probably want to turn off the after so that way it's instantly responsive. You know, some things just work better instantly responsive, but we definitely don't want to dissolve the accompanying edge. But it looks like we did create a kind of double situation that is a little icky. Alright, and we are making progress. Alright, and we'll make this connection. And the question we're asking ourselves is, do we want a edge loop going all the way down the shape? The answer, of course, to me is no. Never. No, never. I never want to have a loop circumnavigating the form when it's unnecessary. And, you know, really these assets that I'm cleaning up right now, they're just to warm me up because the assets that I have in mind are of a level that I'm personally scared for them. Because once you start doing assets that require, like early on, hardcore brain commitment, then it becomes a lot more nerve-wracking because every choice you make at the very beginning is a choice you have to live with 10, 15, 20 hours from that moment. And that's something that, you know, I look forward to exploring. Also, while I'm enjoying all these public videos for now, you know, it will come a point in which, you know, I'll be back to focusing on playlists because playlists are where it's at, but I will continue to always drop shorts because they're where it's at. I'm glad people have been people have been responsive to the shorts and have been enjoying them. And that's the direction I'll go with it, just so we can put a piece back in the corner. I think that's what we had to begin with. We'll come back and fill that part in. And we are at least now at the actual halfway point of this. Well, maybe not halfway point. We still have a little bit to clean up here. But let us deal with this side first, because this side is surely where the mess is at. In fact, we'll save it. And inset just maybe shouldn't be so accessible, but we do need it like that. So one moment while I blow my nose, and then we'll resume this. Alright, so we are picking back up on part 2. I'll take a brief moment to do a little testing, and now we'll get back to work. Bada bing, bada boom. So let's jump over to Selecto, and we'll go ahead and select this loop, and maybe this loop as well. And let's go ahead and give that an offset. We'll put a loop in the middle. And we'll just select these 2 loops and remove them because we won't need them. And we could probably do some reductions on the other side. You know, it's getting crazy, isn't it? And let's go ahead and perform that selection, and it's just beautiful. You know, when selection just works, it's beautiful. But the thing about selection is it never works out like that. But I really do need it to work out like that. You know, what I just did is the equivalent of a commercial, but it isn't the real experience. The real experience is, wait, why did my selection not work? In fact, you know, my thoughts of Blender is, wow, I spent a lot of time thinking about selection. And that's kind of where my priorities are. It's like, what am I thinking about the most in Blender? And how can I assist those decisions? Because selection, maybe it isn't a thing to you. But if you're thinking, hell yeah, dude, I sure do think about selection a lot, then, you know, maybe we're kindred souls, dude. But I'm often thinking about selection. And, you know, selection is multidimensional. You know, it's selection before the operation, selection after the operation. You know, and then there's how the operation is going to behave. And I mean, I care about all of those aspects. So I'm just looking at this, just thinking about how I want to deal with it. Alright, about to have to spray myself with the chloroseptic. I'm telling you, the chloroseptic, I didn't even know you're not supposed to drink it. Like, I found that out recently. Not this recent bout of sickness, but I found out, you know, around the same time I found out that cough syrup actually doesn't do anything, and that it's like a aesthetic. I forgot how the article put it, but basically it was kind of shocking to me. They were like, yeah, you know that, you know, drinking cough syrup doesn't actually affect you at all. I was like, what? Because anytime I got sick, that was like a thing we did in our family, you know. We go out and we get the cough syrup. It's like, Mom, I'm sick. All right, well, let me give you a bunch of NyQuil. That'll shut you up. And now I'm just thinking back, I'm like, wait, was my mother abusive? No, I'm kidding. But they did always make jokes about, you know, giving whiskey to babies. So, you know, that's what you do when they're teething. You know, you give them a little whiskey. It's like, I don't know if this is some of the best advice I'm listening to here, but my family's not one for the best advice ever. In fact, I always joke that it's my destiny to become an alcoholic, because that's kind of the family skill. Except, you know, I'm actually as far from alcoholism as possible, just because I care about modeling that much. Like, I mean, I'm not even trying to brag, but I am definitely the best computer user in my entire family tree. As in, you know, if there was a competition between me and my entire family of hooking up a printer, connecting a bunch of devices, upgrading an OS, installing RAM, obviously I would win. I mean, come on, first of all, I come from a black family. They don't even care about that stuff. You know, the only way they care is if it, you know, sports was involved, or I was about to make a Madden joke, but you know, I think I mentioned it before, but, you know, a long time ago when my mother was still alive, I tried to actually teach her how to use a computer, and I was not able to get her to look at the screen while moving the mouse. And I always think about that, because I remember I'd yell and say, stop looking at your hand, look at the screen. But my mother was just very old school. Like, I mean, both her and my dad came from a time when the world looked like Bonanza. Which Bonanza is like my dad's favorite show. That's all he wants to watch is Bonanza, them Cartwright boys or whatever. I just find it funny. In fact, I tried to put a TV in his place, and the issue I kept running into was the remote was too complicated, and as a result, I would have to rethink the entire entertainment setup that I was proposing, because, you know, you might think, oh, well, if you want your dad to watch Bonanza, you should just give him the Blu-rays of Bonanza, right? That's exactly what I did. But if he doesn't even have the inclination to use a Blu-ray player, so, you know, someone else suggested, they were like, yo, you should just download all the episodes and just have them on some like auto playing media stick. And I was like, well, I don't think he's willing to go through even 2 levels of complexity. Like, I think really he needs to turn on the TV and Bonanza's playing. And if Bonanza's playing, it's a good day. And if Bonanza's not playing, then I'm going to go get me a 6-pack of brewskis. All right. And we'll play Bonanza in our heads. Just kidding. But it is kind of like that, though, when it comes to people in my hometown. Like, you know, I come from West Texas, the hometown of George W. Bush, and it is just an oil town. Like, everyone I meet, they're like, wow, it's so nice seeing you again. You know, everybody calls me Jerry because that's my name. Because I'm the technology guy. I'm like the guy who's always talking about technology. And being in a very country town, no one else is going to be talking about that sort of stuff except for me. And me, I talk about it excitedly. I'm like, hey, this new computer has 800 gigahertz. They're like, well, you got it? I'm like, heck no, I can't afford that thing. I'm just keeping up with the technology. Now, if the question is, can I get it? It's like, yeah, I could, but why haven't I? Because it's crap. Because the company's evil. You know, and that sucks. It sucks to say that. You know, when I hold shift and I add this loop, you know what I'm thinking in my head is the loop should pop out. I mean, it shouldn't do that. I'm just talking out loud, but it should pop out like that other program, like them M-Boys. I think that's what they do in Maya is, you know, the loop will pop out when it's activated on shift. But we don't need it for our context. I'm just thinking out loud. And if what I'm doing looks like hell, then you're not imagining it right, because this is like our level 1 improvement to the situation, to just have it in a continuously solvable state. But I mean, the worst case scenario is literally me getting in here and pressing J a quadrillion times. And that is the true reality of it, is that, you know, I'm just holding the modifier keys and activating what tool I'm using. But really, the default way that we're supposed to be doing this is possibly a little, I just use the words hand-herdy because it sounds cute, you know. That's what a 4-year-old would say. In fact, Master Shake would say a 4-year-old would definitely run from this, in reference to that episode where he had all the technology on his back, the backpack. You know, I'm a big Aqua Teen Hunger Force fan. I love Aqua Teen. And watch me say that, and then the guy who's on it gets himself canceled for something ridiculous. I mean, it actually would fit Shake's character if he did something inappropriate, because, you know, Shake was a very inappropriate character. I created a Triforce right there. Suddenly, I felt the power of Ganon, guys. Alright, sorry about that. We'll get that corrected. You know, sorry to activate the Triforce of Wisdom in the middle of a video. In fact, let's dissolve this, because what are we doing? What are we doing? How do we want to solve this? One. And, you know, this one probably can meet there, which can give us... Wow, this song is fire. Alright, coming to an intro near you is this song I just... people actually hate hanging out with me now, because they're like, yo, you just listen to the same songs over and over. I'm like, sorry, that's what it means to be a reviewer of music, guys. It means that I have to listen to the same songs over and over. You know, I knew what I signed up for. When I said I was going to do a musical, I meant I heard songs that are so fire that I can hear them a trillion times without going insane. So this part, I've activated a puzzle, you know, maybe a puzzle box level puzzle, you know. We're about to get met by the Cenobites. Never mind, sorry. False call. No Cenobites needed for this. You know, sometimes I feel like I'm about to be treated by the, what was he, the Prince of Pain? Or the Prince of Torture? I forget. But I'm hoping these references come across. I work with so many people who don't get any of my references at all. Like, that is probably how come the tools are the way they are, is because a lot of my references and jokes are just misunderstood, and probably for the better, you know. But it is kind of funny at times when I'm making movie references and they're just like, "What are you talking about?" I'm like, "Look, first of all, that movie is 50 years old. Why do you not know it?" And that answer is sometimes sad. They're like, "No, we don't know it because your country has a stockade against us, or whatever the case is." It's like, "Oh, not bad." Let's Alt 4 and we'll jump back into nflow. And we are just making our way across this. I mean, when I saw this asset, my thought was, wow, no one on earth would clean this up. I mean, maybe not even STLR himself, because I want to post a whole bunch of imagery of the old meme of concept artists modeling stuff, knowing they never have to figure it out, because that meme is even more pertinent now, funnier than ever now. But definitely, that is how we've become acclimated to working, and that is good. Like, if we're able to get away with results that are comfortable to create, then that is a good position to be in. I've actually only had that position one time, where I was like literally throwing my filthy towels onto an underling. I mean, I felt very bad, but the secret is you never meet them. And also, our merging is getting a little out of control there. And something like that, just to give it a decent form, even though I think that we are looking at shrink wrap being a little weird. SX0. And what are we grabbing? Oh, we're still on 3D point. SX0. And I think I'll just maybe shrink wrap that back to the original at the end. But let us continue, because we have so little left to convert, and we are just dashing our way through this. What other things to talk about? I assume everybody's seen the the Baki movie that came out recently. Never mind, I'll stop talking about anime. Alright, I'll stop talking about anime. I'm telling you, I'm an anime nerd. Except that if any of my other friends talk to me about anime, I'm like, nope, don't want to hear about it. Don't want to hear about anime, because they're always trying to get me to watch One Piece, and no, I'm like, sorry, I already smoked Naruto once. It was a hard habit, and now that I quit it, no more. Just letting you know. I mean, you could let your kids play free to play games, and that's actually a funny rant too, is free to play games. Like I meet a lot of people's kids, and the saddest thing I often find out is that they are raised up on only free to play games, which to me are a bit predatory and tend to not have the best intentions for the youngest users, right? Because in the game you're either the champion or you're the prey. So let's select this loop, except we want to select this loop. And I'm just looking at this thinking, man, this is just too many dang loops to solve. I mean, I should have done a reductive pass on it previously, but we didn't. And it's definitely too late for us to be doing that now. But we're going to try it anyways, because we're close to success. And once this part's done, that means there's like not really any scary parts left. We're just thinking about, how do we want to solve this? Do we want to give this each its own area? Like so. We could have used a little mesh machine there, just because that got a little bit dicey. But we did not this time. even though I do love Mesh Machine's offerings. Can't wait to begin plugging that into my configurations and begin really solving these things. Maybe something like that, just handling the corner. And let's take a look at what we got going on here. Because we have an entire secondary side to consider, we have to be considerate of how we circumnavigate the form now. If we do too much, it will result in us compromising the other side with additional loops that will harden it up in areas that aren't needed. And just like that, we've terminated that area. And do we want to have it corrected like this? Like I always say, a triangle is only a triangle until it meets another triangle. And then it's like, oh snap, what's up? And then they become quads. And we're bringing this in. And I'm about 50 minutes in. I think, you know, for a man who's under the weather, nursing sunburn, and also enduring the usual dailies. The dailies is just what I call the daily pains. You know, I always tell people, if you are experiencing a day without pain, that is a day to be grateful. You should have something to be grateful for. That's all the reason you need to get in and get working. If you're waking up and you have no pain, you have two hands, you have two eyes, and they both face the same direction, and your hands aren't twitching and don't shake, then that is something to be grateful for and to get in and get modeling. But of course, that's hard to tell folks because, you know, there are greater calamities happening in the world. And to those calamities, there's also the calamity of them being acceptable as calamities, just acceptable calamities. And I mean, this goes to show the sword state of the world. But if you have your health and vitality and strength and HP points, then use it. Get in and use it, because, you know, your time is fleeting. Your moments are running out. You know, your vitality won't remain. Eventually you'll be competing against your own energy in order to get things done, as your body will just give up on itself midday. Like, I'm not even a coffee drinker, just because coffee's like really hot, and also I have to put a lot of sugar in coffee. So I mean, I don't have to put it. I sometimes will have it black, but you know, if I'm having coffee and I'm having it comfortably, then I would probably put a little sugar in it. You know, a little sugar, and a little coffee ain't gonna hurt. But for that reason, I try to limit how much coffee I drink. You know, it makes my heart beat a little weird. So, you know, I'm always in fear of accidental death. So we don't want to instigate that accidentally. So as a result, I sometimes will let my HP deplete all the way to 0 without replenishment. But I'm telling you, I see all these posts by Gleb about loving coffee, and I just think about it, and I'm like, maybe I need coffee like medicine. Like, this is, you know, and my woman also tells me, she's like, hey, you're tired because you don't drink coffee. I'm like, that doesn't make any sense. You know, you're basically telling me I have to drink coffee to keep alive. And she's probably right. You know, she's often more right than wrong, source of arguments. Because just because you're right doesn't mean you have to be right. Sometimes you can just, sometimes you can be right quietly. You know, there's also the watch and wait, tried and true, of just, you know, analyzing a situation from afar casually. No need to always be such an active participant, but like I said, she's more often right than wrong. So, you know, maybe I'll become, you know, coffee master Xeon, just be drinking coffee all the time. I mean, not even like talking about Starbucks coffee. I would brew it at home. I mean, I'm not gonna. Convenience stores are such a ripoff here. I just, you know, that'll be my next topic. I was walking into a convenience store the other day, and I saw a sign that just broke me. It just broke me, paused me, changed me. You know what that sign said? It said candy bars, 2 for $5. I looked at that and was like, 2 for $5? Like, it really made me realize that the convenience stores were we're doing me in. You know, they smile at you, they hit you with the, you know, thank you, come again, you know. But at the same time, in the back, dude, they're like, hey, that stupid guy that just came in and bought like a bunch of little Debbie snacks because he has no self control. Yeah, that cost him $30. Like $30. You know what? I am going to stop eating these snacks, and that's, I mean, level one. Stop eating Little Debbie because something happened to their formula years ago, and so as a result, they're not the same Little Debbie we used to know and love. I know that's like a dangerous accusation, but you know, I think there's news stories about this stuff. You know, I'm never talking about this stuff just out of nowhere. And when it comes to knife, it's always just a little slide away. I mean, really need to correct that inside face because it's just hideous, showing up through analyze so vibrantly. But it also goes to show that there's always a little bit more work needed with things, you know, before they can become that final level. And just know that I have the conviction to see that and always want for that. Like, I will not look at this current analyze and say, well, that's good enough. I mean, it is good enough right now because it's not crashing. I am very, very happy about it not crashing. But now that we have it not crashing, we need to have it also not causing eye blisters, all right? So we probably need to lower the opacity of that. And what's crazy too is that Blender and drawing is like the most expensive stuff. Like, the most expensive ideas that are argued about are my ideas for something called information conveyance. And this is also something that I noticed that people have umbrage with, is my propensity for information conveyance, because you know, I feel that the more aware that the user is, the better their decisions are. So some people might look upon what I'm doing and see like, oh man, he's providing way too much information. But for the context and for the awareness of the situation, I think even more information needs to be conveyed. You know, I need to basically have my modeling simplified to a seismograph. So that way I'm looking at the activity on a gravitational level, which I know sounds weird too, but you know, we've discussed all sorts of different concepts that could be like brought forward into the tools to increase efficiency and help measure these different type of things, like you know, APM, right? Like APM would be a good one. I think a you know, a free tool based around APM could be a thing, and people would just use it and measure the APM and brag about it and not brag about it or whatever, you know. But these sort of things, you know, I see a need for them in 3D. And we're just looking at this and just working our way through, just having fun with it while I'm chewing a Mucinex. And let's solve this using install. We'll jump over into face mode. And grid is one of those things I have a lot of plans for. I know I say that with everything, that I have a lot of plans for it, but you know, if anyone who knows me knows that I always start off a little simple. I mean, Hop started off very, very basic, and then the scope just increased and increased till it's the level that it is now. And I foresee this thing also increasing in scope, especially as I get told more and more ideas aren't able to be done. You know, that only frustrates me. It makes me want to do it in a more creative fashion. You know, it never stops me. It just makes me stop for that moment. You know, that is that, if we want it to be that. And this loop that we're trying to force down the middle, I don't even know if it's the best idea. In fact, I don't even know if what we just did there was the best idea. You know, it's 4:55 in the morning. I've only been awake for an hour, but we are still getting it together here. You know, probably I had the craziest dream. I don't even want to describe it, but yeah, the dream woke me up, had me panicking. And then the dream was fake. But man, I was so mad in this dream. I was like literally yelling at my girlfriend, being like, "How could you do this?" Then I woke up and she was asleep, so she didn't do anything. I mean, you ever wake up mad at people from the dream world? It's like, why I oughta, but they're no longer part of your reality. You're dealing with a different multiverse version of that person, so you can't hold that grudge against them. You can't even tell them about your dream. They'll be like, "Wait, that's what you dreamed about me?" You get doubly mad. And we could be trying to use grid fill for this. I don't know why we haven't. And we'll give that a try, because the goal is about finding the easier way, right? The goal isn't to make the videos as long as possible, just so I can talk endlessly. But yeah, let's give it a try. We'll see how grid fill treats us, because sometimes the answer is right in front of us. I'm going to select this, and we see that it's 76, so let us delete it. And inside of Selecto, we will just put in grid fill grid, and from here we'll set this to be boundary, and we'll put it under shift, and let's use simple blending. Let's not use simple blending. And we see that some areas aren't as smooth as they could be. So how could we force that to work? Well, I think that it's not ready for it yet. And I should have been able to see that coming. A dip, when it comes to fill, it just gets a little unusual. So let's help it out a little bit. We were trying to do a little too much to it. And maybe something like that. And right now I'm also plotting some of my next steps when it comes to content. So I was thinking about transitioning into movie props, but there might be some funner paths also worth pursuing. So I'm just thinking about it. Movie props would be fun. I've always wanted to do certain props from music videos and scenes. I just think that would be fun and funny. But maybe if not to those who aren't connected to culturally, right? Like, for example, I always wanted to do the barrel from the Mystical music video. And when I was telling someone about that, they pointed out to me, they were like, "Hey, Mystical, sex deviant, got basically got sent to river for being violent with women and abusing them." I'm like, "Oh man, should I ignore that?" No, of course not. You can't be ignoring such things. You have to it kind of makes you look worse to ignore it, but this is happening to so many musicians. Like, I have all these canceled artists that I listen to, and sometimes I'll be hanging out with people and they'll be like, "Hey, put on so and so." It's like, really can't though. I think they committed a felony to that song. They're like, "What?" I'm like, "Yeah, yeah, I think Bass Nectar was doing up to no good to this song, bro." And that's what the song that's what the song's about. It's like, that's why it's a banger. It's like, yeah, that's why I can't listen to it anymore. And that's actually happened with a lot of music. So when it comes to AI and its music seducing me, I think that is the main component, is that musicians were messing up. They were, oh, wow. Is that what we did to the other side? I'm going to have to start catching where I'm breaking things like this at, because that is not supposed to happen. But I could also see how it could happen. We are doing some very crazy stuff on the other side. We're deleting and adding loops, and that little number there is one of my favorites. I just love doing it. Let's redo that connection, and this connection as well, with a loop in between. Okay, back to work. So that was a real hearty cough there. You know, I might have to take that test on the fridge. Yeah, my chest is feeling nuts, guys. But I'm probably just complaining, you know. Can't be a complainer. It'd be crazy if I died modeling. Then that would mean I made a killer modeling tool if I died while modeling with it. And I don't know if that's a reason to buy it or a reason to not. You know, if a man dies while making a tool, I mean, does that mean he made the greatest tool ever? That, you know, God called him to heaven? And since we did reductions on the other side, we'll do that here as well. So now, and with that, we now have this area isolated. Let us get rid of analyze because it's just not working for us at this moment. And then we'll bring it back because we need analyze always working for us. We want to harden that corner because that corner is crucial. All right, and just thinking about how we want to solve this. Well, not thinking too hard. I mean, the solutions are pretty, I do got to watch it with large scale reductions and slides because I might be moving things from the opposite side in a bad position. All right, and we'll connect this here, connect this there. Connect. And we are just making these connections. Even though I'm not liking how many connections we're actually at. Wait. Okay, no, it's working. We're making the connections to the side. I thought we were adding loops that were circumnavigating the form. If I zombify out, then that might be an accidental thing that happens. And we look at this and we probably want to collapse that into itself. But let us go ahead and we're grabbing the most little points and making these connections. And we'll turn this one into a redirect. And when it comes to things like that are a bunch of pieces of geometry all zoomed in on itself, I mean all close to itself, I do look at that wondering how well things will work with it. So I'm surprised that that time join was able to work better with it. We're always trying to get join to improve. And also now I've been detected as awake. So that means I'm now receiving messages. You know, if I get found out as being a person awake, then yeah, that's when I get all the messages. That's why I'd be sneaking awake, slumping to the computer. It's like, all right, I got a chance to work for a moment. And we are just making rapid progress, short work. And we'll just let that go like so. All right. And you know, for this piece, I'm going to grab it and just move it out just a little bit. In fact, let us jump right back into nflow and we'll bring up analyze just to see kind of what we have going on. And I want to try to be experimental for a moment. So this is the part that we are correcting, really. So how should we do this? I'm going to just grab this stuff, press Alt 4, jump over into Insolve, and we will just do a project loop, like so, just to really get the party started. And we'll jump back over into flow. And we want that connection to work out, but we don't want those. That edge isn't needed. It wasn't real. You know, one of these days I'll have to have the ability to start and then rotate the view in order to take this exactly where I need it, because that's where knife comes in. You know, knife will let us start an operation and then rotate the screen, which is just something that we did not put inside of Joint. So, you know, when it comes to us competing with the greats of Blender itself, or the greatness of Blender itself, I see that there is so much to do and so much still to learn. But I do get quite mad whenever Blender, I call them Blender-isms, like things that Blender has made standardized. I do get quite unhappy whenever they are denied. Like the whole EF thing with edge loop, while to you, the user, you're probably like, who cares? You know, I don't even press E in it. What is EF anyways? To me, I'm like, hey, EF is such a standard that to deny it is to insult the person who did it to Blender in the first place. And I mean, that might be a dramatic conclusion to jump to, but I feel that way about most things. Like, you know, when I was using Uniform on iPad, not having Alt snap to view is like the one thing that I got hung up on, because I'm using it on the iPad. I'm just waiting for the update when Alt will basically lock the view, when it will snap it, like Blender Sculpt mode. You know, if I ever talked to Pablo and he was able to talk to me without, you know, hatred, or if he even wanted to talk to me, I'd say, hey, why'd you not have a snap lock to view button in here? You know, and he'd probably say, oh, you're supposed to map it yourself. I'd be like, wait, I have to map that myself too? Look, first of all, I gotta use the dang program and also have to map that. And for that reason, I highly recommend Uniform on iPad to everyone, because the program is ambitious. And I think that Pablo is going to go for a goal and accomplish that goal, and it'll be great. And that goal is to make a all-in-one sculpting solution capable of being used on the iPad. It's a very lofty goal. I mean, Nomad also has that same goal. And I mean, you're probably wondering, how does it compete with Nomad? I mean, you know, he's just getting started, but it is very promising. I mean, and that's just my perspective. As I use it, I'm like, huh, see what he was going for with it. I'm just looking at that, just thinking, how do I want to do that? You know, let's remove that, and let's try that one more time. If we do it like so, and the same thing with this side, we start from the bottom and we leave the try up top, then its solution can be a redirect happening across to the other side. And of course, this model will be available to everyone on my Patreon, who's a Patreon of a certain tier level, of course. You know, not just giving away models that I'm working on for hours for nothing. That would be, we call that fiendish on the streets. That's fiendish activity. I'm not a 3D fiend. I'm a modeling fiend, but I'm not a fiend of that level yet. You know, we should all strive to make sure that we're getting our money's worth when it comes to selling our models. You know, don't be selling your models for dope fiend prices just because the industry is convincing you that we're just data, you know, and they're just scraping the ever-loving bejesus out of Sketchfab. If they are going to do that, it is going to make me stop uploading on Sketchfab, though. And I love that site, but when I went, one time I had a friend just he showed me casually. He wasn't even trying to troll me, but he just showed me, like, hey, this is how you can grab everything off of Sketchfab. I can grab all of your stuff off of Sketchfab. And he grabbed all my stuff off of Sketchfab. He's like, yeah, and then I could 3D print all your stuff from Sketchfab, and now it's mine. It's like, holy mackerel, bro. Dude, please stop. You're killing my favorite site. But these are the lessons that I have to be taught the hard way. Is that, hey, us online, all of the online stuff that we do is in danger, being scraped and taken, and it is being scraped and taken, and our data is being sold. And I mean, this all sounds gruesome and terrible, I know, but once you're aware of it and you've accepted it, then we can exist differently in this world now. Now that we know that even if you take a marmoset scene file and upload it to ArtStation, that someone could just go on there and rip all of that, rip all your models out, and they don't have to know anything about 3D. That's the worst part, is that, or the best part, the best and worst part is that these people don't even have to know anything about 3D. And most of the time, they know less about 3D than us, and they're able to get more worth out of our models than us, because we look at our models as just models. They're just constructs of meshes and polygons. And all right, maybe something like that. And so now we just have this area to protect. Maybe something like so. And what we want to do is actually redirect this to go around the shape, like so. And then we can meet, and then we will have this part be protected in a different way. In fact, the outer loop doesn't even have to exist. So I think I actually see what I need. I need an inset that has an inner loop and an outer loop, and the inner loop probably needs to only show up when I ask it to. I've just been this whole time modeling, just kind of thinking in my head. Like I said, I'm always thinking of tool features while I'm modeling. So I mean, if you're watching me screw up on a video, just know that I am thinking about how to make that screw up disappear permanently. That card might not even pop up in a deck ever again. But first, it must be identified. It must be identified, like a mental illness. It must first be identified, then it can be corrected. So we will bring this part back. And from here, we are going to just attempt something like so. We'll just turn it into a try. We'll do a reduction here. And I mean, we could always just send a loop collapsing into that area because it doesn't matter. In fact, how tight are we going with our quads? I think I said early on that this is not an all quad challenge, because that would be insanity. It is the best of my ability, but certain models, once they become so dense and difficult, like this one, then it becomes more about surviving subdivision. And we are surviving subdivision, that is for sure. I mean, obviously we also want to survive it in style, but we're just getting started. And from here we see join also failing at a case I call going vertical. Going vertical, I'm just thinking of like Tony Hawk. It's like he just went vert. When you jump wrong, you're like, oh snap, I'm vert now because my shoes are on wrong. That's what I'm thinking here as I'm working. But let me grab Ruhelja's gauntlet, and now my arm feels better. And you want to reach for your gauntlet every hour. And we'll just try that. Get it? No, I'm kidding. I know I'm terrible at jokes. All right, and we're just trying to get in on that itty bitty edge. Here we go. We'll get rid of that edge. And this one, we'll let it try there for now, but we are definitely thinning out the geometry that we're having to deal with. And with that correction, that side's looking better. And with that correction, that side is now looking better. So this model opened a whole can of who's your daddy, all right? No doubt about that. This model was a beast. Was a beast. You know, I think I'm going to sign up only for easy models from now on. No, wait, I got it. What I'm going to do is not correct geometry anymore. I'm just going to only just give people unacceptable geometry in professional situations, and then wonder why I will never get hired, or never can get hired, or don't get hired. But we are now looking at the end of this. But, you know, we look at this topology, and this is the topology of a man who almost died. This man barely survived the topology he set out to do. Like this part right here, man, I hope that other people are giving it the same try so they can show me how it's done. I hope they show me that it can be done faster and easier and better so that I may smile upon them and also assimilate them. So go ahead and give it a try. Try me. No, I'm kidding. And I say try as like triangle, not try as in try me, T-R-Y. It's a joke about triangles. But let's add a subdivision to it. And let's turn on overlays and just take a look at what we have going on. And at least for this brief moment, we can revel in our victory. It was hard fought. I mean, both sides show two different solutions. That's what I'm kind of zooming in on as I'm looking at this. I'm thinking, maybe we could have mirrored portions of this. We could have reused portions of this in mass. And this is something that I discuss still right now, is that we can, I want to create something called a solution engine, where basically you reuse solutions for a particular area, but some of these ideas are actually so difficult to convey that I gotta just keep them on the drawing board for now. But let's add a few more edge loops. We'll put an edge loop there, and we can put an edge loop here, and that is that. And we just want our loops to just look hard. You know, we don't go through this level of subdivision conversion in order to get it to not be this way. And normally this is where I would end the video and say see you guys next time, but now I got to see how easy it could be. How easy could it be? Let's find out. I'll end this section and we'll begin the next section of how easy could it be. So at this end point, we are going to just go over just like some solutions that could have been easier that are probably worth exploring. Like for example, I have quad remesher. I'm a big fan of quad remesher. Also, we tried our own type of remesher that just didn't work out. So I'm just curious in how those would have performed. So let's press D. We'll reopen the original version. And let's take this inside local mode and just look at what we have going on here by looking at the wire. Let's delete the modifiers. And this is what we have. And we'll press N. Let's open up our version of the remesher, QW Auto Mesher. And this one I already know is going to make us sad. But let's give it a try. And what really drove me crazy with this version of our mesher was that we had so many options and we still couldn't get a solution. And that's just terrible. It's terrible to have a million options and not be able to get to a satisfactory result. So believe me, I gave this thing such a try to make it work. Like we started discussing all the advanced options and how to really get into the minutia of every advanced option, because I mean, there's no way that we can have a tool with a bunch of options and I don't have to go in and explain to the user basically what every single option ever means. And this thing had so many options that it was hard to even predict how we would explain those to people. But now we see that our result is that, and some areas might work, but for the most part, I would say that this model is, I would say this is successful. This successful remeshing. We can send this to a client, and depending on the intelligence of the client, they might accept this But in my experience, if I sent this to a client, they would call the police on me. They would call the cops and send them to my house. All right, so let's go to quad remesher. Quad remesher, a little more expensive. Well, QW auto mesher costs nothing because it never even made it. Quad remesher, I believe, is $100. So let's give it a try. And we see that we got $100 worth of result right there immediately. That is a result. Let's give it a fair chance. Let's use normal splitting. Adaptive size is between the adaptive solution and the solution that we're trying to force, I believe. I've never completely rationalized the settings in my brain, but we see that this result is probably a little bit better. In fact, I mean, I'm not going to deny it. If the result is better, the result is better. All right. I'm not going to sit here and say, hey guys, this auto remeshing result is completely inadequate in light of the work I did. I'll say, holy freaking, I was about to start throwing a bunch of expletives in there, but I will give it the credit it deserves. Like, look, if an easier solution exists, let's use that solution. But if that solution is simply just having worse geometry, then that isn't a solution. And we're looking at this and we see that, most areas are working. This area isn't holding together that good. So let's see, is this from other things? Let's put a triangulate modifier on it just to give it a little bit of a chance. And let's try that again. And I'm just grabbing my space mouse so we can really start exploring this topology. So we want this area to work. We want that area to work. And so do we want a 10K model? I don't want a 10K model. You give me a 10K remesh and you're like, hey, I down rested. I'm like, what? This mesh is dense. I was about to make a joke about the person who submits this mesh being dense, but maybe this does work. I mean, this edge just isn't going to work. And how can we force it to work? Detect hard edges by angle. Let's try unchecking that. Let's lower this a little bit and try it again. And, I just play with the settings, but I do love that there's not a ton of settings to go with. And also, I love remeshing low. Like, if I had a remesher of my dreams, it would be a low remesher. Like, you would remesh, and it would get better as you put it on a lower and lower setting. That was the goal with QW remesher too, was that I wanted it to be a low remesher because I thought that would be sick. Like, if we could get in here and we'd be like, hey, give me a 500 poly starter base. You can do 500. You can correct the heck out of a 500 poly starter base, is my opinion. But if we have a 5,000 poly base, then that's going to be a lot harder to correct. In fact, you look at this, you probably don't even want to correct this. I mean, and by correct this, I mean, let's put a bevel on it. And let's press 3 to make it a profile bevel. So we have our bevel only in the sharp areas. If we alt scroll, we can make it only hit the right angles. So now we have basically reinforcement bevels happening all around. But right here, we do have to reduce the angle just a little bit just to get that where we need it, which of course bevels that, giving us a hard edge by angle. But we also have a protective perimeter there. And you're wondering why I'm doing that. It's because, if we put the sub Ds on it, put the sub Ds on that Mac, we see that we're able to get something held together pretty nice versus when we turn off the bevel, it'll look like that, and that's the problem with remeshers is remeshers will always give you something a little simple, but with a little bit of bevel, we can control it. So that's my idea, is that if we're able to get it somewhere controllable at a low level, then we can have a bevel hold all the perimeters, and then from there, subdivision will be able to take care of it. Because you apply one level subdivision, you win the game. So let's look at this part, and if we have the bevel in there, it looks pretty good. And for this particular remesher, I like that it always keeps the original, but we're probably far away from the original now. So let's hide, let's bring back the original. Here we go, we got the OG back again. So I really need that part to work out, and I don't know how to make it work out. In fact, this is the problem I have with remeshers. I'm not even trying to hate on a remesher. Like, seriously, quad remesher is the best remesher right now. And I just know that the reason I can't use it on everything is because it doesn't work on really anything in my world. Because hard surface is just a different story. Hard surface is just a little bit harder. There's just no automatic button for it. I mean, there is definitely easier ways to construct your hard surface, but when it comes to getting it to the level where you're able to export it and sell it to a customer, that part is always going to require a little bit of elbow grease out of the creator. Unless you don't want to do that, unless you want to just literally try to sell people garbage models do that. But don't be surprised when no one buys models made of garbage, because they could do that themselves. They could make models of garbage. They want models made of beauty. So, make your models in plasticity, remesh it with quad remesher, and if your modeling is simple enough, you'll be able to get away with it. But I'm just demonstrating in this case that the easy button is just not applicable for this particular asset. Let's try it with this one. Y'all saw me go through this thing and really get punished by it. I just want 2000. I just want it at 2000 size. Wow. Okay, my first thought is wow. My second thought is owie. Owie, owie, right there. You know what would be crazy is if you could keep areas and then paint what you didn't want and have that redone over and over. That was also another area where QW remesher wasn't going to work out for us, because I really wanted to be able to do partial remeshing. I don't need to remesh the whole mesh. I can mesh the whole mesh. I do want to remesh just a region. So, the hypothetical in this case would be me choosing like a group of polys and just choosing to remesh that. But we see that will always happen with the entire mesh, when really I need that to happen to a particular area, and then it would be restitched back into the original mesh. And I think that sort of remesher would definitely have a much more applicable use to us as hard surface artists versus us just, this thing is like a saner Dynamesh to me. Like, that's how I use it. Like when I'm modeling and I need like a crazy Dynamesh that's like more sane, because ZBrush's Dynamesh will turn it to atoms beautifully, but more polys than Blender can handle. This is like a type of Dynamesh that's able to work with Blender. So, and we look at the other areas, and we even have this little crease that he had going along this working out. So, while I'm talking smack about not working, this works. Like, this does work. Well, I don't know. Does that work? I think I was discussing this with other users, and I was like, how wonky can you have your curves get before you get mad about it? Like, look, let's zoom in on this. If your roundabouts got broke down like this, like a disintegrating bridge, is that necessarily good? Would you accept that? Because look, in the grand scheme of the model, that part's obscured. So are you truly that level of perfectionist that it has to matter here? Also, let's hit it with a bevel. And let's, I'm just holding Alt and scrolling to add more angle. And now we have the ability for it to survive subdivision. So 3Mesher probably should add that too. But if we look at the wireframe, the wireframe is probably better than my wireframe. I'm just being realistic here. It's a very nice wireframe, sort of. There's every time I'm trying to compliment it, I see areas that are questionable, but I'm also questionable. So how good is it? I think it's pretty good, and for the time benefit of that it saves us, that works. It does send the mesh back into a conceptual level when I'm trying to finish the mesh and get it on the way out of the application. So let's look at this baby. You remember this part? Real quick, howdy doody, in and out. We hit it with a remesh, and it's done. Let's give that something lower, because I really do want like 300. Like we got, ooh, maybe I don't. Let's say 600. Sorry, that's my twitch. I always twitch and I hit the wrong keys. That's why I get so mad about pressing hotkeys now, is because my hands twitch. My fingers are humongous. I got like sausage hands. I'm built like a Space Marine reject, except like I'm not built. I'm just fat. These are, I keep remeshing and just looking at it and just not. Let's try it again. Let's try it the other way. And that works a little bit better. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 8 rounds on the circle. So, that works. So let us just hit it with the bevel. And I'm just alt scrolling to make the angle a little bit more lenient on this, but this part we basically corrected in a record amount of time. However, if you submit this model to me, I would say Nice remesh, bro. Nice remesh. Please get that out of here. What do you think I'm gonna do with that? You think I'm gonna unwrap that or send it into a game or whatever? I don't know. But it does look a little wonky, and also when your flows start kind of getting a little wayward and a little liquid, I don't know. I'm a bit OCD about my meshes, so really, you could either look at this and say, "Wow, that will work for me," in which that says more about you than it does about me. I'm saying that this is something that can definitely be improved. Like, this is a foundational point. I mean, and when I hear people say things like, "I can't wait for AI to take over," it's like, well, I mean, what is AI going to remesh better? Because I certainly would love for AI to remesh better. I am not against that. And for this one, let's put the level 3 on it and adjust the angle. And that's what we're getting with that conversion. So let's undo a little bit more. And this one is going to be a doozy to solve. So let's go up to 1200. See, if I was working this thing, I would have 3 different parameters here that we would jump to. We would jump between 200, 600, 500, 1200, just on boop, boop, boop. Like if I was working this thing and design the UI, but it's not my problem, not my mesher, not my problem. So we will just ignore that. So just received an email. And I just don't even know how we can make this work. See, that's the thing about mesher that always gets me, is how do I make it work? You know, all I know to do is hit it with the triangulate. Maybe that can work. Let's look at it from without overlays, and maybe that works. Like no, there's definitely a difference between what I'm looking at here and what I'm looking at as a result of love, care, and attention, which is what we're attempting to give this model. We're trying to protect the integrity of all the parts and treat them as if they matter. And as a result, this is something that an auto mesher will never be able to compete with, but maybe AI will be able to assist it to get to that level. But just know that when AI comes in, humans are getting thrown out. So also be prepared to have a forced exit. You know, not threatening you, it's just something I keep seeing in the field. They'll bring in AI and they're like, hey, it's going to help you with tech support. And they're like, wait, AI can do tech support because humans don't want to do this job. And then it's done. So I will wrap this video for now. Sorry about the late game end rant. Sorry to show quad remesher being a funner time, but not a better time. I just wanted to have a little fun this morning and be a little more expansive in this video, despite it just being one straight for the playlist. So with that, I'll end this video and I'll see you guys next time.